Good morning, everyone. And Chip Littlejohn, my friend, so glad to have you on this call. Our journey together began 30 years ago. I remember seeing you a couple of times in a couple of meetings, but the memorable thing was being in Tahiti with you for a week and a couple of days, you and your wife, and it was just really lovely. More urgent, more critical was a few years ago when I reached out to you. We all have health issues, and one of the most important things is may you never know what you're preventing, but sometimes some things kind of sneak by you. And thank you for your help. We got some amazing products that do good things. So I'll just turn over to you. But Chip, you've been following a brilliant guy, one of the smartest guys in the world, I would say. It just, wow, what a great man. In a pharmacological way, he's distinguished himself in drug development, but I think his real passion and some of the most important life-changing things is the nutritional biochemistry that he's done and continues to do. And here we are at this moment. For all of those years, he's always worked for some other people. And then we have another scientist in the same position, an atomic physicist, no less, with an amazing medical background, living real close to the University of Utah and collaborating with all of their equipment and people. And great things are going to happen. Great things have already happened with both of these scientists. And now they've decided that the famous statement, if you want to do it right, maybe you'll have to do it yourself. Rick has talked several times about the frustration of just making something so wonderful for other people, and then they say, well, we don't want to spend that much. We need a price point on this or that, or he'll be at a company convention that he's making the product for and saying how wonderful these products are, and then corporate gets up and say, all this stuff, don't worry about it. Forget it. Let me show you how to make some money. Anyway, we've got our own culture here, and I think it's going to be a wonderful business. It'll be profitable, but it'll be profitable because we have products that really make a difference, and by doing good, we're going to grow. And I love this more good idea here. So Chip, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about our products because you're a product wonk. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you met Rick that first time, maybe to kick it off. And now we're getting a good relationship with Gary Samuelson as well.
Yeah, I thought maybe we'd have a little bit of a theme for today's talk, and it's going to be the special forces of healthcare. And I always think, if the back of the room you're in suddenly opened up and you discovered that you were at 30,000 feet and we we're all going to hop out of the plane and go do something awful, you'd want to talk to me real fast.
How many times have you jumped out of a plane, Chip?
150. My longest time in free fall is 3 minutes in the dark to land in a jungle and that kind of thing. So, but I didn't want to do. I didn't want to do what I was preparing to do. Here, we want to do what we're preparing to do. We're so lucky. I mean, we're all being called to the front to be involved in what I'm going to call the special forces of healthcare. So let's just kind of go back and see why we need us, okay? Why we need you, why your talents, your abilities, each of you that's on the call is of such great value at this time, representing what I'm going to call the arsenal of healthcare products. The AVINI arsenal of healthcare products is kind of what we're talking about this morning. And I sort of came to you from Union Pacific Railroad, then the University of Nebraska, then the United States Air Force, and then back to the University of Nebraska as a systems manager in agriculture in between the people doing the work and the PhDs. That was kind of where I started getting exposed to creative thinking and the wonderful discovery of products and how to solve problems that were limiting an industry. Now, we're up against problems that are limiting us as a species, really. That's what we're fighting here. And what I discovered was that those great institutions, you all know this, they're kind of, they're impressive, but they move slow. They react not very quickly. They're kind of stuck in their modalities. They just kind of do the same thing over and over. So they do change, but gradually over time. But each of them, you'll find, has, and I began to realize this, each of them has their own special forces. And that's somebody that's allowed to move out ahead and do the things that they kind of know should be done and test them out ahead of time. That's who you are. That's who we are together. So I want to kind of think of it that way. I remember one day preparing for Midnight Devil, which was going to be the largest nighttime parachute assault in history. And it was, thank God it was practice. And I was supposed to be the first guy out of the first plane. And the Army guy came and he was from the Pentagon. And he said, we don't want to know what you can do that we know. We want to know what you can do that only you know you can do. And that's what you get here because of Gary Samuelson and Rick Deitch. You're getting the arsenal of healthcare that maybe only they know. And some of it just has some resistance to rising to the surface because of that thing. You know, you have a giant overlying standard of care that is intended to intervene in these problems that we have getting through our lives. And, you know, Dave and I have talked about it so many times, and we've kind of picked up this languaging that it really isn't the standard of care. Oftentimes it's desperate care because you wouldn't do it if you weren't desperate. And so we come around to, okay, what would you do to avoid that? And really that's what we're about here. And so your dream situation here, and I hope, you know, you kind of get a little thing for cheap thrills, and you wonder what you do if you started out parachuting to make you feel like, you know, you're alive in life. And I used to define free fall as the total absence of boredom. I define network marketing as the sustained absence of boredom. And I pretty much assure you, if anybody's been hanging around with us lately, we've been like a rock in a blender. You know, we've kind of had a tour of the industry, and we flew out. Now we're becoming our own thing, courtesy of Neil Roth, you know, trained at West Point. He's a nuclear physicist, I guess, also, right? That's how the way he was trained, and wound up being a person who developed gigantic retail healthcare companies on the West Coast. He's not afraid to make a decision, and he made the decision that, okay, and we all knew this, it's time to put our scientists in the lead and go do our own thing. And Doug Dickey has stepped in beside him as an executive assistant, really, maybe kind of the communication to the field from the corporate side or from the executive side. And I'm sort of the communication to the field from our side, from the distributor side. That's kind of the way it is. And then we're all in support, each and every one of us in support of Rick Deitch and Dr. Samuelson. So where did they come from? Rick Deitch, he was trained under Gertrude Elion, a Nobel Prize winner in cancer research at Duke University. Helped to develop some of the chemotherapies in use today. You know, he's brilliant about all those things too, but he works both sides of the fence. He says, I'm not just a, you know, medical, but also a nutritional biochemist. And he's become a formulator across pretty much the entire spectrum of natural healthcare products. So there's a lot of things waiting in the wings from him. But what's his favorite? You know, what's the thing that makes him famous? What is he the originator of? And it really went back to, he began to look at that we're all toxic, and what, you know, the environment's toxic and how to deal with that. That got him interested in zeolites. And when he came along, there wasn't something like he created. Still isn't, unless he creates it, because nobody else has figured it out. The system to make it takes about 3 days and 30 steps. It's held proprietary so that we get to have it uniquely amongst us. Trust me, if you see the word zeolite on another bottle, that might look like a bottle of zeolite, but I guarantee you they're attempting to imitate something they don't understand. It's going to be, at the most, it may be just the labeling, and it may be only the raw material in there, but at the most, it'll be 3 steps and 30 minutes to prepare the product, not 30 steps in 3 days to get it small and clean so that it will leave your gut, circulate systemically in your body fluids, attract, trap, and transport, literally steal the things that are poisonous to you, that are poisonous mostly because they're too positively charged. They go someplace and get stuck. That's really the big idea there, is to steal the poison from you. When you take Cell Defender as a product, the very next time you pee, you're peeing poison. So people ask me, when should I expect something? I say, well, immediately. You know, it begins immediately and continues indefinitely. How you experience it, that's going to be, you know, probably highly personalized, but everything about you is impaired by these problems, and clearing them clears the way for you to be the unlimited version of yourself. So that's Rick. And oh my goodness, a lot of other things that he's bringing to us that he's loved for a long time. But just think, the category creator of zeolite, activated micronized zeolite. That's the product. Then let's jump over to Dr. Samuelson. What a huge ad. You have somebody of an equal stature rise up next to them. I mean, right next to Rick, and they discover each other. There's an old saying that genius can be created when two highly developed areas of knowledge discover each other and find themselves not to just be compatible, but expansive when the two get together. And that's what we have here, the creation of genius, even beyond what either of them has independently. I was listening to Dr. Samuelson on his Cellular Health Wednesday call a couple of weeks ago, and he said, yeah, he says, I'm a genius in product delivery and making things small. Rick is a genius in formulation. And I thought, okay, that really boils it down. I mean, this is them talking about each other.
So I got to just say something about that. Right at the beginning, if you asked Rick what he thought about silver, he'd say, well, it's got some antiseptic abilities, but I'm not a fan of it because it'll get stuck in the body and build up, and I don't like silver. If you talk to Gary about zeolite, he says, yeah, zeolite has some value, but it's filthy. It's full of bad stuff. And then they met each other, and they both love silver and they both love zeolite. So that's just kind of a cool thing that I'm sure you'll elaborate on.
Well, I love it that you jump in, and what fun it is to be together and work together. You know, we could have lost you instead. I mean, we flirted with that possibility when you started to get sick, and to get that call. And I just want to tell you folks, you know, you're in it now. I mean, you're able to help people that call you. This is important. It's serious. This isn't just another thing. It's one thing that changes everything. It makes you of great value. And each and every one of you, I think these calls and the information that we share is so important, because it's not just you and I. I mean, Dave and I pretty well got by that problem together using these ideas, but we don't know who you know. It's you and thousands of others that you'll represent or you'll reach out to that wouldn't ever be touched if it weren't for you knowing about this. And so believe me, I really strive to wrap words around and make this exciting and interesting, so that, you know, you're not like Gary thinking that zeolite isn't a big deal, or Rick thinking that silver isn't a big deal. Now they both know that properly held in the right hands, prepared properly, they really are a big deal. Let's just say that you reach out to someone and the topic is silver, okay? And probably that person already has colloidal silver in their cabinet, right? But it just sits in the cabinet. Why? Because it didn't do what they thought it was going to do. So what was the problem? It couldn't get where it needed to be. It wasn't clean enough, and it wasn't structured properly. When you listen to Dr. Samuelson talk about silver or anything, I mean, I came to the conclusion pretty quickly that this guy thinks small. When he says nano, it's not like other people saying nano. He thinks small in a big way. Let me tell you, Dr. Samuelson thinks small in a big way. And he literally has pictures dancing in his head that he can share with you. And he's good at sharing them with you about what goes on when a silver doesn't work, and then when it does work, and what the difference is, and then how to make it inexpensively enough that it can function as a network marketing product. And that's really where he comes into play. So what does silver do? What does our Nano Silver product do? I'm really wanting to boil these things down to a couple of words. It takes away the keys and the tools that those primitive pathogens are using to try to break into your cells. If they don't get in the cell, they can't hurt you nearly as much as they can if they get in the cell. And it uses those little outcroppings you see in the pictures on TV. You know, what are those? Those are the keys to get into a cell, to get through that cell membrane. That's what those are. Or you could say, think of it as a pry bar, if that works better. What's the silver do? Properly prepared. And it goes to, sticks to, and disables those keys and those tools. That's what it does. Just that simple. Can't get there to hurt you. A lot of this is about taking out something that's wrong, or getting something moving that's stuck, or sticking something that used to be moving so that it can't. It's a lot about movement. You know, we need to be able to move. We got to be able to move around and think and adapt. And pretty much all these things that are hurting us have to do that too. And we either enable the good thing or we disable the bad thing through the genius of these two men. So I wanted to touch on the medicinal mushrooms real quick while we're going through. Now we've got, and this is something that we did use with Marcy and with Dave, was the idea of medicinal mushrooms. The very first time I ever heard of it, the speaker was Roger Drummer, all those many, many years ago. And I remember, I mean, my mind was snapping pictures, and I've actually asked him, and he doesn't remember this part of his presentation, but boy, my mind took pictures. He had a slide of a live blood cell, and there was a healthy immune cell in that slide, alive. And it was sitting right next to a cell that had made a mistake that was part of a big problem. And it was doing nothing about it. It was doing nothing about it. And then something was added to that slide, and instantly the immune cell recognized the problem and ate it. And really, that's a lot of the function here. One of the big focuses, you know, from Neil for this company, AVINI, is to be a great immune company, a being more alive company. AVINI means win. What category are we going to win in? Being alive and having a great immune system.
Hey, going back to that thing about Roger Drummer and showing that, I think a really good analogy is what Rick explained in the mushroom formula, was that this is not a stimulant like echinacea or something like that, where if you continue to take it, it'll exhaust the immune system and you shouldn't continually take it. This is more adaptogenic and a tonic that you can take forever. And he said it's not like passing out to your immune system a bunch of hair trigger weapons to shoot things. What it is really is handing out everybody walkie-talkies so that those cells can communicate and say, hey, we got a bad one here. Oh, I see it now. And so just improves communication of the cell. So it, you know, helps it target those things. I think that's just a really neat thing. So walkie-talkies.
I so enjoy, you know, each point that you bring up, and it's so important. You're absolutely correct. And I've been working on a little bit of languaging with that. And you don't want your immune system to panic, right? I mean, that's kind of what's going on. That's what's been hurting everybody. You know, this thing that's going around causes an immune system panic, and you wind up with that deal. They call it cytokine storm or something like that. And it's your own immune system whacking yourself. That's what all those immune dysfunctions are. So you want it to make a proper response, not a panicked response. Do you like that languaging? We're playing with the language here.
We like immune system modulator. That's a popular buzzword, but it's a real word, and this is what this does.
So you modulate instead of aggravate, or you don't want it to go nuts on you. You don't want the immune system to panic. You don't want to have, even echinacea, you know, is supposed to irritate and cause the immune system to be hyper immune, but you don't want hyperimmune. You want proper immune. So that modulation, that space in between panic and proper, between panic or hyper and proper, that's where you want your immune system functioning. So it's making the right decisions, So that's really the deal there. And I kind of wanted to talk maybe a little bit about the different parts of the immune system. Our skin's part of it. We're coated inside and out. Our choices when we eat things, drink water, those are all part of it. But when you start getting inside, then your protection is going to be the array of immune cells. Okay, that is really where these immunity mushrooms work, is in that array of immune cells, to get them to make the right decisions, to look again if they miss something, to catch it and do the right thing. But then you go inside the cell and you get inside the nucleus of the cell, and that's when you run into DNA decisions. So tumor suppressing genes like I think P21, 27, P53, these are genes that are watching out for a genetic mistake. And if they miss it, or then you're in trouble. And so part of the way that it works, when you get the zeolite prepared as it is and full of poisons, all right, after it's already filled itself with poisons, it's not going to enter any healthy cell. But if you come across one that's injured in some way, by whatever cause, and it's stealing your food, that's one of the ways it hurts you, right? It's going to steal your energy. Then it's going to eat that zeolite that's full of poison. And Rick says it's like a toxic depth charge that it just ate. It folds in the cell membrane and makes a little vacuole endocytosis, is what it's called. Now you've got that depth charge floating around in there, and very few things are allowed inside the nucleus of any cell, but this winds up going in and kind of like a fire alarm, and asks those genes to take a look again and decide again. And so, this immune support is across the broad spectrum of our immune systems. And it's going to be, you're going to find out, I know many of you know already, if you're brand new today, believe me, the products they're not going to let you down. They're going to hold up their end of the stick, right? They are not going to let you down. You're going to be so empowered and so proud to represent something like this and of such great value. So what have I not spoken about yet? And that's Darren's favorite, and that is Cobra venom. We have a fourth product in the line already, and I think we could run forever with just these 4 products. They're that good, and they're that applicable across the entire range of the entire array of, whether you're doing great or you're in big trouble, if you're a high performance person, if you're just sick and a single digit midget left on the planet, these things are capable of helping you fight back, to get back where you were. And so I just want to encourage you. And so what if one of your problems is that you hurt? There's a strange little thing about the nervous system, and I bet everyone here has experienced it. All of a sudden, something snaps in your knee, and your knee collapses. It collapses. Misery can instantly take away your entire function that way. So let's say you got chronic misery. I saw Pat Tracy just chimed in. She's just figured her way out of it, same way that Darren has, using the Cobra product. And it's so wonderful if you run into someone who has had literally decades of misery, and they come in with a particular feature of the Cobra venom that Rick is able to turn into a product. He's done this for years, and just now being discovered because of us. Takes away the function of transmitting the really bad news down a nerve. It's kind of like that's a nerve message, and this is the operate your body message. And it takes away the peaks and the valleys on the system that are interpreted as misery, that disable you, instantly disable you, don't let you be or do what you wanted to do. And so not harmful. It's in a very small amount. You could use it at a very high rate for a long time, and it would never hurt you. It's focusing on the peptides that have the capability of muting that signal. And that's what the Cobra product is all about. I understand it's being renamed, and at last I knew the name was still secret. I'm not sure it'll slip out, I'm sure, during this coming week, so look forward to that. Somebody says I'm new to AVINI and I didn't catch the rest of it. So there are also, if anybody has, college football, there's players in the transfer portal that are coming to us. Both Rick and Dr. Samuelson have created things that they really want to get to people. They really want to get to people. And this is really their dream, to create an avenue that they're in control of. Think about that. An avenue, a process, a company that gets the best ideas to the front, instead of having them knocked off along the way, or shortened or imitated in a way that doesn't work, or a whole different concept coming from the big, standard of care thing that's taken a flyer in the wrong direction. They get to be the leaders. They get to be our leaders in the special forces of healthcare. They get to bring us whatever they choose as the AVINI arsenal of healthcare. That's really a lot of what I wanted to bring to us this morning. I want you guys to be excited about what you got. I want you to be valued. I want you to know that your skills are valuable, that your first paycheck is likely to be just like being the person who reached out to someone else. One of the gals on this call frequently, one of the first people on almost every call, Joan Gard. And, probably doesn't think of herself as a gigantic networker, but she reached out to her sister who has rods in her back, heard Darren's story about the Cobra, offered it to her sister. Her sister called her in tears. That's what the first paycheck looks like. Can you imagine? I'm sure you can all imagine what it feels like for me to be here with Dave. And I don't think we can beat this too much, Dave. Dave's neighbor had the same problem at the same time that Dave did, and went the other way. Would you put that on this call too, Dave? I think it's important. I think it's really important.
Oh, we're about the same age. His was prostate. His was what they called still, intracapsular. It was all still inside, and he went the regular route. And a couple of my lesions had gotten out a little bit, so they were talking about there'd be some collateral damage cleaning that up, and they said probably wouldn't be life-threatening, very treatable because it wasn't in the bone or anything, but I would definitely be different, probably where it depends. All of the other things you can kind of be thinking about. And I just, plus the entertainment value you could see my friend was having, going to the hospital and undergoing those. And my mind has always thought about that idea of treating this kind of thing. It's like discovering that your house is infested with cockroaches, and the treatment is let's burn down the house. I think there's a better way. The ideal situation on anything would be coming out of a treatment better, more healthy than you went in. And so all of the stuff he did, he's still got stuff from, he shuffles around like an old man. That just this right here, I think, wow, I just go like this, and that's so easy to do. Doesn't even taste bad. And it's just magical what this does. That's easy to do. So every day I'm very, very thankful that I was able to avoid all of that stuff. And
I want to make a really important point here, because all of you are going to reach out to, and Dave actually called me, and people will call you because they're going to hear, he says, I'm in trouble. I heard what happened to Marcy. Do you still have those drops? So in our conversation and in yours, I think it's so important. I don't prefer saying I have something that might help you. I really don't, because then you just loaded the entire thing on your shoulders. I really don't like that. I really want to know what's the best thing that you found already in your work to overcome this problem. And then, let's see if we can put our heads together and come up with us as a team, and pull our ideas together to overcome the problem, to outsmart it, to figure out, what's out there to solve it. And that's really what we did. And I will say, and this is important too, of all the people that I ever have gotten a chance to work with in that way, Dave was like maybe the most hyper compliant person. He was searching the world over, and he was going to do it and do it seriously and do it right and do it consistently over a long period of time and do a, right in the beginning. And he was going to hurt this thing bad. He was not going to tolerate being sick. And that gives you a huge advantage. One of the things that I found remarkable and have learned more about because of him was he started out with a 10-day fast. He learned that these kind of cells eat sugar. They wouldn't feed it any sugar. Wouldn't let have any, wouldn't have anything, and really created every possible disadvantage for the affliction and every advantage for himself. And I'm telling you, that approach works so well. And I want to encourage everybody, if you're brand new here, don't just try it. Don't just do it a couple of times. Don't just dink around with it. You're getting called to the front if it's you that's sick or if it's your friend that's sick. And this isn't practice. I tell some people sometimes if you come to a call like this by yourself, you're practicing. If you come with a guest, you're working. But if you're working with yourself or somebody else, you are in the battle. And you have tools. They are natural tools. They're safe tools. I want to make one little distinction about the Cobra. It is actually a drug. And you are legally free to say the word pain when you're working with a drug. So you could say that it was a pain relieving, but I encourage all of us maybe to use other words, alternate words, and to treat it as though it's one of our natural products. And so we don't need a doctor, a diagnosis, a prescription, and a pharmacist. The terms about the names of diseases, those kinds of things that are off limits for natural products. Even when we're using our Cobra product, which is actually, it's certified as a drug. Yeah, we can use misery, discomfort, inconvenience. You get hurt and you just collapse. Whatever it is. When my kids grew up doing this, and we had additional dirty words at our house, and someone would say pain, and my kids would say, "That's a dirty word." I say, "Well, yes, some people say that. They don't know." But at our house, that was a dirty word, and I kind of suggest we stay that way.
And what's really cool, just to add on to that, it is a drug, but it's a homeopathic drug, and it has no side effects whatsoever. And so when you think of drugs, especially pain meds, some of the most horrific side effects are pain meds, even the over-the-counter ones. And this is non-steroidal. It is anti-inflammatory, but it doesn't addict. One of the things also in pain meds specifically, you can habituate or build up a tolerance. And so as you use something, it becomes less and less effective. This actually becomes more effective over time. So that's a really cool thing. So it's all upside and no downside, like all of our other products. That's what I love about this. Taking the zeolite or the silver, what have you got to lose? And one of the best ways to use it is not as a treatment. Use it as a preventative. And that's another thing, because usually when you think of drugs, that's a treatment. And sadly, it's a symptomatic treatment, not really fixing the problem, just fixing the symptoms and creating more problems. This is just, wow, to me, a no-brainer. Everything to gain, zero to lose. It's just...
Would you touch on one more thing, Dave, because of the timing here? We're brand new, but there's people that we reach out to and they say, okay, that's a brand new thing. Most brand new things don't survive. We're about to get together for the very first time with our leadership group this coming week. Are we a weak, timid little thing coming out of the ground here, or are we a mighty oak coming out of the ground and nobody knows it yet? Could you please say, where are we?
Thank you for asking, because I think that's a really good thing. Probably if you think, okay, who is good at picking investments? Well, Warren Buffett, and he has this phrase he calls asymmetric risk reward. He studies things out as best as he can. He turns most things down, and the big thing that he does is analyze and just does not want to lose at all. Losing money is not his thing. And so he really looks at ways where the risk is minimized, but at the same time, what's the maximum return? And if you look at AVINI with that effect, you can think, okay, lots of opportunity because it's on the ground floor. We love that. But of all ground floor opportunities, picking the next Apple or the next Tesla or something, you might pick something and most businesses fail. That's just the way it is. But if you do the Warren Buffett thing and analyze, you quickly go in and realize that this is not the typical new company where maybe, as an example, a sales company with products and we're going to build this team. It's probably a couple of former distributors that thought, well, let's do it ourselves. What kind of product do you want? Let's look around and see if we can get somebody to invent something with a new name and maybe just add a little bit of thing and some pizzazz, and we'll have somebody else distribute it. And, to rent it off of somewhere. The thing I like about this is here's a couple of people that they've both made blockbuster products. At its heyday, wasn't Wayora doing, say, 80, 90,000 bottles of zeolite a month? They have an immunity mushroom product that I used, and it's a good one. But Rick made that. And now, just frankly, I can tell the difference between those products. This is way better because Rick is making it, and he's making it the way he wants to in his lab. And just the same thing with Dr. Gary. He's got all kinds of things that are going to come out, but his passion for years has been silver, perfecting how silver can work, what its potential really is, and unleashing it by creating these uniform little spheres of silver that are pure, and they're only 200 atoms a piece. So he talks about, that biological connection that's made that no other silver can make that kind of contact to make it that effect. So here we have two guys that have an amazing track record. So we have our own research, development, manufacture, distribution, all under one roof. And then, okay, leadership. Who's directing this company? But as you mentioned, we got Neil Roth, who was going to have a Navy career in nuclear power, and working at a store at the same time, decided he loved people, and he just had a business head, and he was at the right place at the right time when drugstore companies were acquiring other drugstore companies, and he just rode that wave, working really hard, being really smart, and all of a sudden he's the president of a big chain that's doing billions and thousands of branches, and then through that course he came across Rexall Showcase. Rexall is a company that began in the early 1900s, I understand. It's a household name. They decided to go MLM, and they contracted with Rick Deitch to be their science officer, and he made all those products. Loving business and loving empowering other people, that's what Neil got attracted to. So he got in and met Rick, and they've become friends for 25 years now. Neil knows how to run businesses. He's done really well in traditional business, but he did very well in network marketing through Rexall and a couple of other companies. And so, wow, he's very capable of doing stuff. So it's not. I would say that we've all experienced. We've all had several rodeos. Now we're coming together one more time with all this knowledge and experience and proven product that has already shown itself spectacular in the marketplace. And you could just feel it. This is you, and you share that with other people, and it's real easy to connect the dots to think, oh my goodness, this is not just another deal. This is not just stuff. These are vital products that really will make a difference. And so we have an immeasurable market. The timing is just right, and the opportunity is yours. And so I guess the only unknown factor in this equation of success is you. What do you want to do?
I have one more point. I have one more point to tie our call together. Remember, our theme for this call was going to be Special Forces of Healthcare. And I want each of you who have been invited to feel so complimented that someone felt that you would be the right person to do this with us. And I just want you to imagine getting your jump wings. When you get your jump wings, they literally come down, and the person who taught you holds your wings on your chest and drives them into your chest, literally sticks them into the meat on your chest. And you're so proud at that moment. And I want you to feel that proud of being invited to do a AVINI with us. This is a big deal. And this is something you do want to do. It's not something that you don't want to have to do, the thing you're preparing for. I was actually later hired by a plant pathologist, and he was the first guy out of the first plane on the invasion of Normandy. Had the job that I had, only he had to go do it. How do I know he was the first guy out of the first plane? He was shot down on the way in, and he was the only guy that got out the door before it crashed. That's a story for another day. Thank you, everyone.
Let's go for it.